And welcome back to the Falcons Audible presented by AT&T. It's been a while. How's everybody doing? I'm Derek Rackley with my guys Dave Archer and DJ Shockley. We have been on the what you would call off-season break, like some people have. But guess what? We are officially
back
in season. We are officially back, and we are happy to bring you Falcons content because I know you are dying for it. You are itching for it. You are yearning for it, and we are here to help bring it for you. Before we talk to the fellas, let's give you a quick little rundown of what we're going to talk about today. That way you can figure out how long or for the entirety of this podcast that you are going to join us. We will talk about some of the biggest position battles as they will happen on the field. Training camp has opened. Arthur Smith addressed the media today, so we'll talk about him and his evolution, his mindset now that he approaches another season at the helm for Atlanta. Where the Falcons won big in the offseason. We talked about it already, but it's been a couple of months. So we'll go back and we'll talk about some of those guys and how they're going to actually fare in the jersey on the field. And then if we have time, we will get into a little training camp story time. It's funny because my wife asked me earlier, she goes, do you miss it, the fact that training camp opened today? And I said,
capital A-N-O.
Just wait till the end of the podcast. Is that what they call a tease in the business?
Well played.
I'm trying to keep you along with us for the ride. All right, so fellas, I hope you guys enjoyed your time away.
We did.
Because we're going to strap it back down.
Let's go.
We're going to talk about some Falcons stuff.
Let's do it.
So before we get into the nuts and bolts, I want to go training camp in 3 words. Dave, I'm going to start with you. If you could summarize what training camp is this year, maybe your time, maybe training camp as a whole, 30,000 foot, in 3 words, do you have it for me?
Yeah, I was going to go pain in, and then I didn't decide not to do that.
Well, is there a there?
No, it's just pain
Okay.
in. Okay. I'm gonna go with the mentality I had to come to camp with until my 3rd year in the league. Don't go home.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. Yeah, for the average fan, you don't really understand how this works. Like, there's a few guys that know they're going to be on the roster,
right. Yeah.
and there's quite a few other guys that are literally fighting for a job, and they have the mentality, like Arch said, that my job is to not get sent home.
That's right.
During this training camp. I like that one, Arch. Very creative. DJ, what do you got?
That was a good one because that was something I thought about all the time. Don't be the one that goes home. I think for me, when I think about training camp, the thing that comes to mind for me would be a little bit of fear.
Okay.
Because I was a 7th-round guy, so obviously I'm like, okay, I got 3 weeks, and if I don't play good enough,
Don't go home.
I'm gonna be going home, be scared. I'm gonna be nervous. What am I gonna do next? So it was a little bit of fear to start training camp, but then once you got into it, you kind of got over that fear because you got to play, you got to do all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But fear definitely was a little bit at the forefront of my brain when I first started camp. How about you?
He said fear.
Yeah,
He did.
2, 3.
I don't need him.
Oh,
I ain't need 'em.
So his was up to 3 words. DJ
There you
said,
go.
I
There you
just
go.
need
Didn't
one.
need it.
These guys kind of talked about 2 things as far as making sure they stayed on the team. Mine has nothing to do with that. Mine is going to be because 6 of my 8 years in the NFL was with the Atlanta Falcons, which was in the Southeast, which training camp starts in July and August. And my 3 words are bring the heat. Because there ain't – and granted, it's different now.
Embrace the
No, bring it, because there's no embracing of it, right?
Yeah.
But it's throwing the pads on and then
Yeah.
going out for 2.5 hours. Again, we'll get to story time at the end because I know
man.
2.5 hours is not necessarily the status quo right now as we stand in 2023. But full pads, helmet covering up the head in
There's
90
no 2.5
plus
hours
degree.
right now. So
You know, I was sweating just walking over here from the parking lot, and I don't have any gear on. We're not running around or anything. So there's training camp in 3 words. So now that we are in training camp, DJ, let's talk about some of the position battles. We talked about it back during our free agency show, back during the draft recap. A lot of new faces coming into the building, which is going to create competition. Arthur Smith said that in his press conference today, is that competition brings out the best in athletes.
Mm-hmm.
What is a position battle that you're excited to see play out on the field?
Obviously, you're bringing in a guy like Ryan Nielsen on the defense side of the ball. And I think the thing that really sticks out to me, and me and Archer were talking about before we came on, the position for me is the nickel spot.
Wow, interesting.
You got A.J. Terrell. You brought in Jeff Okudah, one of those free agents. So you kind of feel good about 1 and 2, right? You feel good about 1 and 2. But in this league, we know There's always nickel. There's dime majority of the time. Who's going to be those guys? And they have a bunch of guys. There's 4 or 5 guys that we can name right now that are vying for that spot. And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, how it plays out in special team, how it plays out in return game. I mean, there's going to be so many ways to figure out, okay, is that your guy? Because we know in this league, you're going to play a lot of 3-4 wide receivers. You're going to see it in practice. You need 3-4 good defensive backs, especially in this league. So that nickel spot's going to be fun to watch this preseason.
Yeah, I agree.
What's cool about it, too, guys, is the fact that they've gotten a lot of different body types. You look at Trey Flowers. He's 6'3". You know, you've got Hughes, who's like right at 6 feet tall. Then you got D. Alford, who's like 5'10", 5'11". So now all of a sudden your ability to mix and match, because the Falcon depth in the secondary far exceeds what they've had since Arthur Smith's been here. And I would argue this might be the deepest from a talent standpoint. Now they got to go play that we've seen in a long time here on the defensive side of the ball in the back end. So that's what's cool as far as the nickel could change. I mean, you got Hughes out there. Maybe he's starting at corner, and then all of a sudden, hey, their third wide receiver looks like Kyle Pitts. Now all of a sudden Trey Flowers is the guy that's in there playing the position, right? So I think that's the thing I'm excited about the position group that Shock's talking about is, hey, we got a lot of versatility back there.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking the same thing as I was looking through the roster, because obviously Jesse Bates comes in. He's going to be one of the starters, right? So a couple of guys that were here last year probably not going to be in the starting lineup. But I thought, well, maybe one of those guys ends up playing more nickel than he does true safety position for the reasons that you talked about. Maybe they want to get a 6'1" frame in there that's got longer arms that can cover up a little bit more space. So plenty of options there, but I like that one. Dave, did you have a different position group that you're excited to look at?
Yeah, I think that the one that sticks out to me, I'm going to stay on the offensive side of the football. Obviously, we know Matt Bergeron has been drafted to come in here and play. He's a rookie, okay? Is he going to come in and start at left guard? I mean, Matt Hennessy feels like maybe he should be the left guard. How does that work with Drew Dahlman at center? Because we know Hennessy played, 17 games and 21 at center. So you've got a little bit of an interesting scenario there. Does Mayfield get back in the mix? You know, he was out all of last year. He played left guard, 17 games back in 21. So it looks like to me you've got some really good competition in there. Now it looks like Bergeron is the earmarked guy for that spot. But I'm sure Hennessy's saying, you know, I'm the incumbent here, and Mayfield say, wait a minute, I was the incumbent before you were the incumbent. So I think there's some pretty cool competition in there, and there's some other guys you can factor in as to how that factors into that left guard position.
Yeah, and Dave, yours kind of leads me to mine, but we're on the same wavelength. Arthur Smith said at the end of last season, said throughout the offseason, whether it was draft and free agency, and then he just said it again this morning in his press conference, that they need to be more physical and play smart on the lines of scrimmage, right? So you're talking about all that competition. He actually highlighted how we've got to be better when it comes to the red zone. We got to punch the ball into the end zone when we get those opportunities instead of turning it over. All that's efficiency, and it starts up front. I'm going to go the other side. I'm going to say the defensive line, and not just the guys that might have their hands in the dirt. This extends to the outside linebackers. Think about the players that they brought in, and that who is going to take these spots, because at the end of the day, they're limited on numbers, right? But you bring in a Lorenzo Carter, you got a Bud Dupree, you have Ebiketie, you have Malone, you have so many guys out on the edge, but then they bring in a Zach Harrison that he's got the ability to rush the passer, probably from more of an interior positional lineup, if you will. And then obviously the guys that they brought in, the Onyematas, the Calais Campbells, he's obviously going to start on the non-football injury list, but he'll be back. TQ Graham. So think about the guys that have actually made plays, the guys that are coming in that have been good players at other places, but yet at the end of the day, you only have so many positions. You can only carry so many guys. The competition there will be fierce because, like you said, Dave, those guys don't want to go home, right? And you don't really want to be on a practice squad. Like, you'll take it if it's there, but you want to be on an active roster because that's where the money comes from. That's where the career longevity comes from. But there's going to be some guys that are going to be an outside looking in just because of a sheer number standpoint. So some really good position battles going on. We talked about both sides of the ball. We talked about Arthur Smith. He addressed the media this morning. Another year with the Atlanta Falcons. Dave, I'm going to come right back to you. What do you think is, from what you've heard from him, you've got a chance to talk to him more than probably anybody in the media does. What do you think is the next step in his evolution as a coach and for this team that he has in front of him in 2023?
Well, I think some of it has to do with what's available to you, right? And so when you begin to look at the array of people that he can put on the field, you just talked about defensive linemen and linebackers and the different things that Ryan Nielsen's going to be able to do. That's what Arthur Smith's going to be able to do on the offensive side of the football, guys. When you start looking at, you could essentially have 3 tight ends on the field or 2 tight ends and 3 running backs on the field. You could say shift. You could be lined up in the wishbone. Barry Switzer would be loving it. Lined up in the wishbone with Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, and Cordell Patterson in the backfield in the bone. And then all of a sudden say shift.
And they all go to empty.
You could go to empty, and all of them are accomplished receivers. Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable. You got the 2 tight ends in Kyle Pitts and Jonnu Smith.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, the versatility. So now, if I'm Arthur Smith, my mentality is, okay, I've got to almost do like Joe Gibbs used to do back in the day. Okay, I got Art Monk. I got Ricky Sanders. I got Gary Clark. I got Kelvin Bryant.
Yep.
I can weave different things to get each guy the ball and make it all look the same, and all of a sudden now Bijan's got it. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait a minute. They're concentrating on Bijan. Here comes Kyle.
Yep.
I mean, to me, it allows him to probably be that guy that had a team that was 4th in the league in red zone offense when he was in Tennessee directing that offense because of the weapons he's got around. Oh, by the way, Jonnu Smith was part of that group. So
right.
To me, I think it loosens the reins a little bit or takes the handcuffs off him, and now he can go spin some magic.
Yeah, and you're right, Dave, because let's be honest, like he's probably been handcuffed a little bit from a personnel standpoint since his time here in Atlanta. They've had to be smart. We've talked about that through the offseason. And, DJ, the most equipped that this organization has been with playmakers, both sides of the ball. But I want to go to the offensive side. And it's interesting because we might be, 8, 10, 12 minutes through this podcast, and we have not mentioned a quarterback one time. So we have quarterbacks here. We have not talked about Desmond Ridder. DJ, I'm going to try not to, lead you into what you are going to talk about, but we've got a lot of options, weapons on the offensive side of the ball with a quarterback that's got 4 starts under his belt. They're really, truly hoping he takes the next step in his development.
I had a chance to talk to Dez today, and one of the things I asked him about was that simple thing was, dude, you got toys around you. You got some dudes around you.
Yeah.
And as soon as I said that, he sat back and he smiled.
Yeah.
And that tells you everything you need to know is he understands what's around him. He understands that his role can change a little bit. But you got to think about it from this mindset. I've been one of those guys that when I got to the Falcons or when I was even at Georgia, you were 1 play away. And that's where Desmond Ridder was last year. Before he got his 4 starts, he was 1 play away. So the mindset was a little bit different going into camp and then going into the season. He comes into this season now, not 1 play away. Now he is the guy.
Yep.
And now your mindset is a little bit different. He's in an offseason to kind of sit in that and understand what's going on around him and how he can get better. And one thing he talked about from day one today was, I know I don't have to do everything. Mm-hmm. I got guys around me that I can just distribute the football to and allow those guys to be who they are. And I thought, man, this is great. And day one, he realizes I got so many weapons around you for what you guys just talked about, from the different personnel, the guys you talked about. And Art, you named all those guys, and we didn't mention one wide receiver.
Right.
Did not even mention Drake yet. Didn't mention Mac. Didn't mention Scotty. Didn't mention none of those guys yet to add to that. So you talk about the culmination of having all these guys around you, and then you have a guy in the middle who understands it. The demeanor that Dez has already, you can tell he is far longer in his mindset than just a guy coming into his second year. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what gave Arthur Smith and this organization the knowledge to say, all right, look, there are a lot of things out there this offseason. A lot of people talked about where the Falcons could go at quarterback. We know exactly who we want. Number 9 is our guy, and I think that confidence is going to bode well for him going into the season. We talked about it before, hey, this guy played tons of ball in college, got 4 games on his belt last year, which was tremendous to have that, coming into this season. And now you got even more toys added to the array of guys he has. It's going to be fun to see the evolution of Desmond Ridder in this offense with what Arthur Smith is going to do. And the last part I say about this, when I asked him about what's it like playing for Arthur Smith, And you talked about the array of things that he can do within his offense is what he talked about. He said, I never been around a guy who game plans the way he does and takes into account every single little detail. And that allows me as the quarterback to understand what everybody around me wants to do because he makes sure everybody knows what's going on. So he already understands mentally where he needs to be for this offense. And I think it's so cool already from day one. He knows I got dudes around me. All I got to do is do my job and allow them to be them.
Guys, I don't know about you, and it's one of the things that we can't control. It is one of the uncontrollables in football is I hope this team experiences health this year.
Yeah.
I hope that they're able to, all these pieces that they brought in, these difference makers, I hope we get a chance to see them all on the field because you guys have all been around it. You guys have been around the NFL long enough. 2, 3, 4 guys that are really important to a franchise end up going down, and sometimes things spiral out of control. But as we sit here and weekly, we're going to be in these Ticketmaster studios talking about the Atlanta Falcons, I just hope that we get a chance to see all of these guys go out and do what they were brought in here to do.
No doubt.
Because you're right. Like Desmond Ridder doesn't have to do everything. He's got running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, rebuilt offensive line, guys that have gotten paid, guys that got smiles on their face, guys that are happy to go out and work, and he's got a defense that's retooled that's hopefully going to get some 3-and-outs and get them back out on the field. Yeah. All of this is stuff that you want as a player when you're in the National Football League. Now we got to just try and keep them all on the field. Again, it's nothing that any of us or any of them can do.
And
it's
there's 31 other teams that are saying
exactly.
the same thing, right?
It's just,
they all want to have their guys on the field.
It's luck. It's sometimes you got really good luck, and sometimes you don't have such good luck. So we talked about it a lot with the personnel, but let's just kind of recap some of the biggest wins that you guys have seen this offseason. Dave, I'm going to come to you. Maybe it's a positional group. Maybe it's something completely different. But where do you feel like this organization is going to be able to take the next step because of what they did in the offseason?
Well, I'd like to think that it's the defensive front, but the thing that jumps immediately out to me is how much deeper they are in the secondary.
Yeah.
I mean, Shock talked about it. I mean, you got 3 former number 1s back there. Yep. You had Jesse Bates in free agency, so now all of a sudden Jalen Hawkins becomes a rover guy that can switch around with Richie Grant and potentially Bates starting at safety. And then the array of players, Flowers, Alford, Hughes, all the different guys that can mix and match. And if you remember, I think it was a Cincinnati game last year, we were playing with guys we didn't even know who they were. I'm looking them up and trying to find them on Wikipedia. What's this guy's name? They're calling the game. Because, wait a minute, he got like 4 games over here and he had 3. That's not the case here. Now the depth of the football team, and not just in the secondary. You talked about D-line. I talked about the offensive line. There's a number of guys that the depth is so much better. So I would say I'm excited about how the secondary comes together for Ryan Nielsen because he wants to be aggressive. You heard him in his opening press conference. We're going to get after people. Well, to get after people, you got to lock down people in the back end. Yeah. And I think the personnel, for the first time in a long time for me, and I've been calling the games for some 20 years, this is the first time I felt really good about the secondary and what they look like.
And, Dave, I'll actually piggyback on it because that's my thought, and I'll be quick here, but because that you always bring in depth. And this time of the year, you're always going to see a big roster. But what happens is if you don't have experienced, talented depth, you end up with a lot of street free agents or rookies, undrafted free agents, and that's your depth. Yeah. You get your number 1 and your number 2 go down, and then you're in the position that you talk about. A guy that, no disrespect, but a guy that's coming in undrafted. I was undrafted, right? But I was a specialty player as a long snapper. But then that guy's the one that you're counting on to move the football down the field. But the difference is experienced, talented depth. Because you got a quarterback behind Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke that has started, played a lot of football, not going to be overwhelmed by the moment. Every position group, running back, wide receiver, you either got guys that have already done things in the league or they're number 1s or number 2s in the draft. At one point, if not recently, they were evaluated as some of the best players to come out of college. That's what Atlanta is working with. So maybe if they do end up coming into the situation that I talked about, injuries, they might feel a little bit better this year, DJ, with that talented, experienced depth that they have. What did you think about this?
You know what, I'm going to stay on that defensive side of the ball, and I think one of the biggest wins this offseason was who you replaced Dean Pease with. and we knew the knowledge of what Dean Pease was about, and you bring in Ryan Nielsen. Arch just talked about it. We talked about the personnel that goes with it. The one thing that stuck out to me was it was during OTAs, maybe a mini camp, and Calais Campbell was talking about Ryan Nielsen. And he mentioned he did something in a drill, and Ryan came to him and said, hey, have you ever thought about doing this? And he said, you know what? I've been playing 15 years, and nobody really explained it to me that way, and I learned something new.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a guy who's been there and done it in Calais Campbell, a veteran who we talked about experience, who's been around, done it all, seen it all, but he's still learning from Ryan Nielsen, a guy who's coming there who's a proven pass rush guy, and something we've been, please, can we get it for the last, And now we have the depth there. We have a guy who understands it and the passion and the style that he coaches with.
Yeah.
And everything I've heard about him is details, from your hands to your feet to the placement of everything, and the players have responded to him, and you love it. Arch talked about, you heard it from day one. We're going to attack.
Yeah.
That's what you want to hear from a defensive coach. We love that. You don't want to be hey, we're going to react to whatever the offense. No. We're going to make them react, and that's what you like. And so I think the biggest win was how do you replace a guy like Dean Pease? Bringing in a guy like Ryan Nielsen, I think was probably a slam dunk hire, and stealing from that team down
that other team down there
the road.
To Bayou.
Oh, by the way, we got a couple of their players.
Yeah.
Took some of them too.
Well, and I talked to Onyemata this morning after practice, and Onyemata echoed what you're talking about. You said, what are you doing here? I mean, you were successful. You're a starter in New Orleans. They're going to pay you and probably bring you back. He goes, that guy right over there. He pointed at Ryan Nielsen. He says, that's why I'm here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I love the fact that you brought up the coaching side of it because, again, they had a great coach in Dean Pease, but you get somebody from a coaching standpoint that's a technician and that is hungry, energetic, and probably can't wait to get on the field and start working with all these pieces that have been brought into this building. All right, before we wrap it up, try to have a little fun, if we haven't had already, to talk about some training camp memories, okay? Now, again, I'm not going to sit here and go down, glory road as much, but training camp in 2023 is a whole lot different than it was in, Dave, what was your first year at training camp? 1984. My first year was in 2000. Your first year was in 2006. So you're talking about the evolution of NFL training camp
exactly
going
right.
on.
Because it was a lot different for me than it was for these guys.
Than it is for Bashak, and now it is for these guys right now. What kind of memories do you have from training camp, Dave? Not just the don't go home, but maybe some fun
Well,
ones.
that was a big part of it. Although at one point I wanted to go home. 17 straight days in two-a-days in pads.
Yes.
So
that makes my stomach hurt thinking about it right now.
It was. I forgot. You forget what day it was. I remember it was just back in the non-cell phone day. I know ancient times back. So you had to write letters. I was writing a letter to my then girlfriend, who's now my wife, at Iowa State. Writing to her, and I said, I just want to get out of here. It was for, and I was playing quarterback. You can imagine what a defensive lineman was feeling. I remember Scott Case in year 2 of training camp, which is under the same type of scenario. Case, who ended up being my roommate, Oklahoma player, was second-round draft pick in '84. Scott came into training camp at 192 or 193. We'd worked out all offseason together. In 3 days, he was packed in ice with IVs in both arms and weighed 167.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh,
he was, and I went in there and I looked, I go, holy! I walked into a hospital. I mean, that's what this can be. It was so depleting to you, and you're drinking water. You guys know you got water. That's not like they're depriving you of water. You're drinking water,
coming out
but you'd lose 10 pounds in the morning in a morning or 8 pounds in the morning practice water weight. 9 to 11. And then the brilliance of practice 2, coming back out at 2:30 in the afternoon was unbelievable. You'd lose 10 or 12 pounds. All you were doing at dinner time was trying to drink. You couldn't eat anything. It was brutal. It was really hard. And we were a hard-nosed, get after you, run the football team like this team is. Gerald Riggs, William Andrews. We were pounding people with the run game. It was physical, and so. That's one of the main things I remember about training camp is just trying to stay hydrated and what the hell am I doing here?
I'll go next real quick just because this is the evolution of training camps, right? Yeah. And I have a daughter that's playing competitive sports now, and she's getting to the point to where she gets sore, right? And she's like, well, what can I do? I was like, well, you need to fill up the bathtub with water and ice, and you need to sit in it. And she's like, excuse me, what?
No.
And I'm
no
like,
way.
yeah. And she's like, okay, well, I could probably do that for like 2 or 3 minutes. And I'm like,
Nah.
2 or 3 minutes?
Nah.
So what my memory is, and what I always tell her is, and I remember when I come up here, because when you came up here today, right now, you see ice coolers like lined up outside, right?
And they're cattle troughs is
Yes,
what they are.
and then now, yes, now they're the horse troughs or whatever. Before with us, it was just the big trash cans.
Oh, yeah.
that's
You step in it.
So
yeah.
you would just get after practice, literally, you don't go in the locker room. You walk back from practice, you drop your helmet and your shoulder pads on the ground. There's a bunch of student trainers that are helping for training camp, and their job is to fill your bucket up with ice. I'm talking big trash can. And all you do, you don't even take off your football pants. Yeah. You just step over into the ice, and that 15 to 20 minutes was the most glorious time.
Well, not the first 2 minutes.
The first 2 minutes. The first 2 minutes.
You got to get over your toes tingling and all that stuff.
You have to develop frostbite before it becomes very, very blissful. So yeah,
Dave,
that's
I was
brutal.
trying to leave out the details that they didn't need to hear. Okay.
Or did y'all even have the thing for your toes?
I was just
yet?
getting ready to say, did you put the things on your toes? They had like what looked like a wetsuit you could put over your toes.
Neoprene toe cap.
You did that.
Yeah.
You never lived that down in the locker room. Put the little wetsuit things
what
on
I
your
will
toes.
say is that stuff is a necessity for training camp.
no
If you want to
question.
get your legs back underneath you, you have to live in the ice bath, tub, trough, trash
no
can,
doubt.
whichever one it ends up being.
No doubt.
Well,
DJ,
it felt like they just sewed new legs on your
my gosh.
body. Like you had brand
You get out
new,
your tingling.
And look,
Yeah.
I try to
It was
tell
awesome.
the people in this generation, like, if you want to get your legs back,
Yeah.
this is how you do it.
Good call.
It's hard, but this is how you do
I
it.
tell my son that now, and I tell him it's going to help you. You're going to feel better. And he says, no, I'm good. I'm fine now. I don't even hurt you anymore. I said, bro, you got to do it. But I got two. My first one is in 2006, I had never seen the magnitude of a grown man crying over seeing somebody else. And this time it was seeing Michael Vick. I'm running out to practice, and we're running over to the
about
hill.
yourself?
Yeah. Yes, and I'm watching grown men look at him like
And they just start crying.
just start crying. It was unbelievable to watch. But the second part of it was a embarrassing moment for me. We get into our offensive meeting room. It might have been a team, and I think it was an offensive meeting room. And I'm just sitting there, I'm a rookie sitting there just relaxing. And all of a sudden, Greg Knapp, rest in peace, puts up, I had a rooms to go deal. And there was this deal of me sitting on these bump beds, and I got my feet kicked up.
No.
And Greg Knapp says, yeah, so we got one of our rookies who hasn't done anything yet, but look at this. And he puts it up on the entire screen for everybody to look at. And I see it, and I instantly want to crawl in my shirt. I'm so embarrassed. I'm like, I didn't even know they knew about it.
Yeah.
And for some reason, they found it in a paper, and I got crushed for a week after that. You ain't did nothing, rookie. You got your own rooms. These veterans, I ain't even got that yet. What are we embarrassed.
That's my
embarrassed.
NIL deal.
Right.
Yeah. Embarrassed to
15,
all
20
get out.
years before NIL.
I love it.
Oh, man.
In all honesty, we could probably sit up here
Oh,
for
no.
a full podcast, if not 2 or 3.
We'll need a
with
couple
training
pitchers
camp
of beer for
memories.
that.
Yeah. And then we might need the censored version versus the true version, which you're probably not going to get that. All right, anyway, hopefully you're excited about training camp starting. The season is upon us. We'll be playing a couple of preseason games here pretty soon. And hopefully you'll be seeing a whole lot more of us here talking the Atlanta Falcons. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Falcons Audible presented by AT&T. Remember, subscribe, review, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and AtlantaFalcons.com, or however you get your podcast content. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll be back very soon with a whole lot more. Thanks, fellas. Good job.
Good to see you,
job.
boys.
Yes, sir.